Welcome back to RetroWheelsVault, where horsepower never dies. I'm RetroVault 4, your tour guide through the golden age of chrome and carburetors. Today we're diving into the quirky 1961 Chevrolet Corvair Monza. A car so different, it's like Chevy decided to stick an engine where the sun doesn't usually shine. Because modern cars forgot what muscle. Here's a juicy slice of Corvair history. The 61 Chevrolet Monza wasn't just turning heads with its sleek lines and rear-mounted flat six. It also found itself in the automotive spotlight for less flattering reasons. Its swing axle suspension, while clever and compact, gave the car some early handling quirks. Push it too hard in a corner and it could surprise you by lifting a rear wheel or acting like a mischievous carnival ride. For some drivers, it felt like the car had a personality of its own. Fun, unpredictable, and occasionally slightly rebellious. These handling quirks did not go unnoticed, though. In the mid-1960s, consumer advocate Ralph Nader took aim at the Corvair in his book Unsafe at Any Speed, highlighting its early safety concerns and turning the compact Chevy into a poster child for automotive caution. Public criticism stung, but Chevrolet didn't just sulk. They refined the suspension in later models, ironing out most of the eccentricities while keeping its unique character intact. Think of it as a scrappy underdog learning from its mistakes. A little rougher on the edges, but smarter, safer, and still plenty of fun. The Corvair Monza wasn't perfect, but then again, who wants a car that's boringly perfect? Its quirks are part of its charm, making it unforgettable in the annals of automotive history. In 1961, Chevrolet decided to give the Corvair a touch of class by introducing the Monza trim, an upscale makeover available on both the four-door sedans and the sleek club coupe body styles. Think of it as Chevy's way of sending the Corvair to finishing school and dressing it up in its Sunday best. While the base Corvair looked ready for a day's work, the Monza looked ready for a night out downtown. The Monza's designs oozed early 60s sophistication, clean lines, a bit of chrome jewelry, and proportions that whispered European flair rather than shouting Detroit muscle. The body was still light and compact, built on a unibody construction that kept it agile and surprisingly solid for its size. It wasn't about brute strength, it was about balance and elegance, the kind of car that could park next to a Volkswagen Beetle and make it look like it was still in driver's ed. Inside, the Monza offered bucket seats and an upgraded trim that made drivers feel like they were in something far more exotic than a compact Chevy. It was the kind of interior that said, sure, I might not have a V8, but I've still got style, comfort, and just enough attitude to turn heads at the diner. Under the rear deck lid of the 61 Corvair Monza sat something truly out of left field, a 2,376cc or 2.4-liter flat-six engine known as the Chevrolet Turb Air 6. This wasn't your typical Detroit iron lump. It was an air-cooled aluminum block oddball that sounded more like something Porsche would have cooked up after a few too many espressos. With a displacement of 145 cubic inches, a 9-to-1 compression ratio, and four main bearings, this little boxer engine produced a respectable 98 horsepower, enough to make the lightweight Monza feel lively, even sprightly. Think of it as the automotive equivalent of a scrappy underdog boxer, compact, quick on its feet, and always punching above its weight class. Fuel delivery came from a pair of Rochester H1 barrel carburetors, feeding each bank of cylinders like twin chefs, serving up just the right air-fuel mixture. The result? Smooth, balanced power that climbed willingly through the revs. Sure, it wasn't going to smoke any tires, but the Turb Air 6 had charm. It purred, it buzzed, and it delivered a driving experience that was more about finesse than fury. In short, the Corvair Monza's engine didn't roar. It hummed like a jazz tune, smooth, cool, and confidently unconventional. Akin to putting that quirky flat six power to the pavement, the 61 Chevrolet Corvair gave two flavors of fun, each with its own personality. The standard Saginaw 3-speed manual was for those who would like to drive their car, not just ride along. In that old-school mechanical feel, every gear change was like flicking a switchblade, crisp and deliberate. You could feel the connection between your right hand, your left foot, and the rear-mounted engine singing away behind you. It wasn't about lightning shifts. It was about rhythm and control, like dancing the twist on a Saturday night. But for those who preferred to let the car do the work, Chevrolet offered the 2-speed Power Glide automatic. Now, Powerglide sounds fierce, but this transmission was more of a smooth talker than a street fighter. It eased through the gears like butter melting on a summer day, lazy, relaxed, and perfect for drivers who didn't want to break a sweat at every stoplight. Both setups sent power to the rear wheels, giving the Corvair its unique rear-engine, rear-drive charm. Whether you were rolling gears or gliding through them, the Monza's drivetrain made every drive feel just a little bit different, but in all the best ways. The 1961 Monza rolled on Chevy's Z-body platform, a unibody chassis that ditched the traditional body-on-frame construction. This made it lighter, tighter, and a bit more daring, kind of like a gymnast among muscle-bound wrestlers. The unibody setup gave the Corvair a solid backbone, making it feel more European than American in its handling. Chevy was clearly aiming for something nimble and refined, not just another straight-line bruiser. Up front, the Monza sported independent suspension with wishbones and coil springs, a setup that soaked up bumps and kept the steering sharp. It was smooth, composed, and surprisingly agile for a compact for the early 60s. This wasn't your typical float like a boat ride. It actually cornered with confidence. Out back, things got a little wilder though. The swing-axle independent rear suspension gave the Corvair a unique personality. It handled well in gentle cruising, but push it too hard and it could get a little creative. Let's just say the rear end had a mind of its own when physics got feisty. Still, the design gave the Monza its signature handling flair. Quirky, engaging, and unlike anything else rolling out of Detroit. It wasn't perfect, but it sure made every drive memorable. Step inside the 61 Chevrolet Corvair Monza and you'd quickly realize this wasn't your run-of-the-mill compact. It was Chevy's idea of giving the little guy a taste of luxury. Front bucket seats came standard, wrapping around you like a well-tailored suit instead of the typical park bench seating found in other compacts of the era. Add carpeting and front armrests, and suddenly you had a car that felt ready for a date night instead of just a daily commute. The two-door Monzas came dressed to impress with an all-vinyl interior that looked sporty and upscale, while the four-door models offered a classy cloth and vinyl combo for a more refined touch. Chevy clearly wanted to make sure every Monza owner, whether coupe or sedan, felt like they were getting more than they paid for. And the details? Oh, the details were what really sold it. A glove box light, because who doesn't need to find a map at midnight, rear armrest for the sedans, a folding rear seat for extra practicality, backup lights, a deluxe steering wheel, and even a cigarette lighter for those mid-drive musings. Dual sun visors topped it all off. The Monza's interior whispered sophistication, reminding everyone that compact didn't have to mean cheap. In true rebel fashion, the 61 Chevrolet Corvair used a transaxle system in the Monza, where the differential and transmission checked up in one compact unit, cozily tucked at the rear. It was Chevy's way of saying, who needs tradition when you can innovate? Every Corvair came with an open differential, offering final drive ratios of 3.556 or 3.889 from the manual crowd, while the Powerglide automatic cruised with a 3.556 setup. The result was smooth, balanced rear-wheel power that gave the car its distinctive feel. And for those who wanted extra grip when the road got rowdy, Chevy did offer positive traction, the optional limited slip differential with attitude. On paper, the Chevrolet Corvair Monza in 61 looked compact, but in person it had just the right proportions to stand out without taking up the whole block. Measuring 180 inches long and 67 inches wide, it struck a sweet balance between sleek and practical, kind of like the automotive version of a well-fitted leather jacket. At 51.5 inches tall, it sat low and lean, giving it that sporty, European-inspired stance that whispered, "I can handle corners, thank you very much." The wheelbase stretched 108 inches, keeping the car stable while still nimble enough to dart through city streets or carve up curvy back roads. It was just long enough for comfort, yet short enough to keep the handling lively, like a well-trained terrier that loved to play but still knew its boundaries. As for weight, the Corvair Monza tipped the scales at around 2,415 pounds, light by American standards of the era. That meant better fuel economy, snappier acceleration, and the ability to feel connected to the road without the heft of a typical full-size cruiser. The Monza didn't rely on brute strength. It used agility, poise, and clever engineering to make its mark. It was a lightweight fighter in a world of heavyweight brawlers. The Chevrolet Corvair Monza in 61 was a bold experiment, Chevy's moonshot into a new world of engineering. Its biggest strength lay in its uniqueness, a rear-mounted, air-cooled flat six that gave it a perfect weight balance and a driving feel that was pure fun. It handled like no other American car of its time, nimble, responsive, and eager to carve corners. The Monza trim added a dose of style and comfort, proving that compact didn't have to mean cheap. Lightweight, clean looks, and a surprisingly refined ride made it a hit with young drivers and families alike. But like every great rebel, the Corvair had its flaws. That swing axle suspension could be a little mischievous, especially when pushed too hard, as it had a tendency to lift a wheel and remind drivers of the laws of physics a bit too abruptly. Maintenance also required a touch more care than your average Chevy. Mechanics weren't exactly used to rear engines in the early 60s. Still, for all its quirks, the Corvair Monza spirit can't be denied. It dared to be different. An American car that thought like a European, dressed like a gentleman, and sometimes acted like a prankster. Imperfect? Oh, absolutely. Forgettable? Never. And there you have it. The 1961 Chevrolet Corvair Monza, the compact rebel that dared to defy Detroit's rulebook. It wasn't about raw muscle or tire smoke. It was about engineering flair, European style, and a touch of American mischief. The Monza proved you didn't need a massive V8 to have fun behind the wheel. Sometimes all it takes is a flat six humming in the back and a little confidence to go your own way. Sure, it has quirks, like a charming, eccentric uncle who tells wild stories and occasionally forgets where he parked. But that's what made it special. It wasn't just another car, it was a statement that Chevrolet could think differently, and sometimes that's where the magic happened. So here's a question for you. Do you think the Corvair Monza was a misunderstood masterpiece, or was Chevy's rear-engine gamble just too far ahead of its time? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear your take. If you enjoyed this trip back through Chrome and Courage, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the legends of the road. Until next time, keep it loud, keep it classic.